Hello, Tom Levecki here with a quick live edition of the Armchair NBA. I was just outside, so I'm a little wet, so forgive my appearance. But that being said, I just want to do a quick live and talk about a big announcement for an interview that I have coming up. And what I want to do is I want to give an opportunity to anybody who checks out the live to put some questions. No, but I spoke to Dom. And he wants to come on. We're going to have him on soon. It's just a matter of working out the schedule. So I've been in touch with Dom, for months now, and we're going to do something with him soon. I've been in contact with him. I've actually been a little busy. I know he's a little busy, but that's in the cards. I just got to reach out to him and work to schedule a day. Hey, Big G, how are you, buddy? Great support of the channel. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Dom has done a great interview with Jeff Nadeau, which I thought was great, as well as OC Shorts. I was really happy about that because I haven't seen much by the way of interviewing with OC Shorts, so I thought that was pretty cool. Hey, Donavito, Donavito's going to like this one. I'm going to guarantee that he's going to like the guest that I'm going to have on Monday. So the purpose of this live is to put some questions you would like for me to ask for him below when I tell you who it is. And then number two is if you're watching this on the rewind, just simply feel free to drop your question below. If anybody wants a super chat, I'm not going to hate you for doing it. Or if you want to put a super thanks below. This show is partially sponsored by JSV Capital. JSV Capital, Loans Without the Broken Bones. He launched his new commercial loan course. Obviously, he puts in a subtitle, make $20K per month or more. You can make $20K per month or more. It's something if you were doing full-time and you had a good book of business, but it's a great part-time hustle. SBA loans, merchant cash advances, traditional loans, all the way up to commercial loans for real estate. Just wanted to give a shout out to Jason at JSV Capital. The link is actually pinned in the comments. So if anybody's want to check it out, just tell them the Armchair NBA sent you. Thank you, Chris, for checking it out. Yeah, I think it's a nice format, I believe. And thanks for checking out the show. Ask him if he'd rather fight one bear-sized chicken or 100 chicken-sized bears. I have to say, in all my years of podcasting, that was the funniest thing I've ever heard. What was it? Would you rather fight 1,000 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? Was that it, Boston Finest? That's an old-school comment that goes way back to the Armchair NBA days when I used to take them back online. That's no longer on the air, so you're not going to get that one. But the bucket story is a close second, where the guy actually was kind of severed at the waist, and then he lived in a bucket, and he was in jail, and it just was a crazy situation. All right. So without further ado, let me get to the announcement. All right. I'm going to give you my opinion, okay? And this is more of a mobologist play. The mobologists are going to go nuts over this one. This is a hard to get guest. There's a lot that went into getting him, and I'm really excited, okay? So when it comes to Italian organized crime, and what I mean is Italian organized crime, Ndrangheta, Camorra, Cosa Nostra, SCU, La Stida. In my opinion, there are 4 worldwide experts. Just my humble opinion. You don't have to agree. You don't have to disagree. But in my humble opinion, again, there are 4 worldwide experts. Number one, and again, I don't think anybody would deny this one, is Roberto Saviano. Roberto Saviano, no, is not a guest. I'm just giving through the top 4, in my opinion. I try to reach out to him, try to reach out to his people. He's very, very hard to get. But I would love to get him on. Number 2, who I had on the show, is Antonio Nicasso, author of Bad Blood, but that's small compared to his accomplishments. He actually, Nicola Gratteri is like the basically the new not Berlusconi, the what's his name, Falcone, if you will, who's trying to put away the Ndrangheta, and Antonio Nicasso sits next to him on panels. So Antonio Nicasso, I would put for number 2. Number 3, I would put Dr. Anna Sergi, who I've interviewed on Mobsters Inc. Not everybody saw that, so make your way to Mobsters Inc. to check that out. So number 4, really quick, Don Vito, I'm going to make an announcement. Number 4, without any further ado, on Monday, I'm scheduled to interview John Dickey. Okay, John Dickey is an author, a world-renowned author in all things Cosa Nostra. All things Cosa Nostra. He actually wrote the book Cosa Nostra History, which is like the Bible for worldwide mobologists on Cosa Nostra. He does not do a lot of interviews. He does not do a lot of press. To be honest, I don't think he's done a lot of American press. Sorry, I got a little ambient noise. He does not do a lot of American press, and he agreed to come on the show. Just to highlight some of his books, which we're really going to kind of dig deep into. Cosa Nostra, again, the history of Cosa Nostra, which is basically the gold standard for anything mafia. I want to skip over the craft in a second because I'm really excited about that. Italy's Three Mafias, Blood Brotherhood, kind of a cooking Italian book, and the Mafia Republic, where he covers the three mafias. So this guy is world-renowned, a very big deal. Now, his last book, The Craft, is, and if you ever watch my show, you know I'm into this stuff, how the Freemasons made the modern world. So I'm going to ask about Cosa Nostra in Sicily, how Ndrangheta took over, where does a Camorra fit in, why didn't the American Cosa Nostra, outside of the government, but culturally not survive, why, in my opinion, Canada survived, the Ndrangheta in Canada, Ndrangheta in Australia. And these are the kind of things that I like to talk about. And this guy is a worldwide expert. There's 2 reasons why I want to have him on. I do think there's a good amount of mobologists that are like, holy shit, this is a big deal. He actually wrote the foreword for Anna Sergi's book, Chasing the Mafia. And she was very excited and a big deal to have him on. He's a criminologist at the University of Sussex. And again, I just can't go on. But I think there's a lot of people that are not going to know about him. Like the typical, not typical, but the regular mob watcher knows about the 5 families, maybe knows some of the secondary families, knows a little bit about Canada. But this guy's depth of knowledge is second to none. And this is a really big interview for me and a really big interview for the show, and exactly a big interview for you guys as guests. Yeah, so he wrote Mafia Republic and Blood Brotherhood. And Boston, if you can maybe shed a little light in the comments, if you will. This is a biggie. This is a biggie. And I'm really excited. So you can put some comments below. You're welcome to. As well as I'll drop a link if anybody's around. I'm just going to be on for another 5 minutes or so if anybody wants to come in and shoot the shit, if you will. And this is a really big interview for my podcasting career, and I'm just really excited about it. I do have some of my questions written down, the structure of the interview. I like to arc my interview around this, kind of his background, the subject matter, and then I like to, fit in things that I find of interest. Yeah, man, this is exciting, Joe. I'm really excited, and thank you for the support. I remember John Dickey wrote an article about the mafia trying to infiltrate the Vatican like 10 years ago. I actually, Boston's finest, I want to spend a little time on that. Obviously, there was rumblings of Cosa Nostra being tied in through Miguel Sindona, Roberto Calvi, and Miguel Sindona was very close with the Cherry Hill Gambino, specifically John Gambino. He was friends with Lucio Gelli, who was head of the P2 Masons, who also was very close with Ndrangheta. So he basically, that bank that Michael Sindona bankrupt, was managing money for the mafia, for the Freemasons, and for the Vatican. So there was a huge tie in there. And then allegedly, the Vatican used some of the mafia's money to fight communism in Poland. It's not that the Vatican is gets too involved politically, but generally wherever there's communism, there's less Catholicism. So they probably look at it as a cost of doing business. and the tie-ins there are absolutely amazing. Read the book, never knew that was the author. This is going to be good. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is I took a little break, family commitments, work commitments, but I want to come back strong. So I got that interview lined up. I got another big interview lined up. As anybody could imagine, any big interview, any big name requires a lot more effort. They might have an agent, they might have a manager. Some require fees. Some you negotiate, maybe they'll waive their fee, but you buy some books, you do a giveaway. There's a lot of machinations that go on for a simple half-hour interview. You have no idea. There's a lot to it. And I'm not that big of a show that I don't have Joe Rogan numbers where they're just going to pop on and like, hey, I'm sure I'll do it for you. We're getting there, though. We're getting there. So I'm really excited about that. So the olive oil industry is infiltrated by the mob. The ecosystem, the eco mafia, the wind, like kind of the wind churning, if you will. What are they called? The wind God, I'm a little slow today. A long day. It's a Friday. But the wind turbines generally are controlled by the mafia. Hey, Jeff. Hey, I'm dropping a link if you want to pop on. Jeff, I'm just going to be on for at most another few minutes. And just announcing that I'm going to be having John Dickey on the podcast, who's a professor over in the University of Sussex and is a worldwide expert in all things Cosa Nostra, Italian mafia, not American mafia as much, I don't think, but more Italian mafia. So, for example, when Matteo Massimo Denaro was apprehended, he was like one of the first guys that the media called in Italy, and he was doing a ton of appearances. Italian is like exquisite. He studies all things Italian. I'm interested in discussing the dichotomy of like the mafia and the Italian culture, and also I want to kind of talk a little bit about how that morphed into the American culture as well. There's just so much that there is to talk about with him. The Norman Code of Ethics is commonalities of organized at major level. Viking was a verb. Real brand rights is basically a crew. Yeah, good point. Really enjoyed that Luigi Fellow episode you had. Yeah, so the book is oh God, I had a long day. Homicide is my trade. Man, just give me a second. That's why I don't do a lot of lives, man. Sometimes I get spatial. The Luigi Ronsonbali book was insane. Homicide is my business, written by Michael Vecchione. Michael Vecchione was a fantastic interview. I want to get him back on. I really would like to get him back on. I like the fact that he's like from Brooklyn, an Italian guy, went the right way, was a New York prosecutor, did some big cases. I don't understand about that book. And I almost want to spend an episode on it. Why wouldn't Miguel Sindona, with the connections that he had directly to John Gambino? John Gambino hid him out allegedly in a hotel in Staten Island. Why would he go to an associate of, at that time, I think the Bonanno family, through a captain, which is fair, and ask him to kill him and pay him $100,000? I don't buy that. I just don't. The Sicilian is a good book. Once you taste real, yeah. It's are you a Mason Catholic? I am Catholic. I am not a Mason. I am not traveling east. Would you do some? Yeah. So I'm working on. JC, give me one moment. Okay, I'm working on a show where an ex-associate, and it's the most I can say, of the Rizzutos, is willing to do an interview with me, but there's a lot of terms that he has. I'm allowed to record it, obviously just audio, not video, and I can't ask too many specific questions because we can't triangulate to who he is. He's not active, but he was active during that period, and he has a lot of information that he feeds me. That's how I get my candidate information. I've been pretty lucky in that sense, and he's the one who said, look, why Lupresi got killed, that Rizzuto told Vitali to go kick rocks. They stopped giving tribute way before people did. And I'm working to get him on. I'm trying to nail him down. But it's a lot of stuff that's going on. Yeah, OC Shorts. James, I know you're a guy that would recognize this. He is the name for the origins of Cosa Nostra and Southern Italian groups. And I'll make you proud, James. And congratulations on your Dom Sakali interview. Please do more of those. JC, it's been a minute. How are you, man?
I'm great, bro. How are you?
I'm well, man. What have you been up to?
I'll just running my business, and I've been pre-recording a few interviews, and then so I can start dropping them once or twice a week on the channel to get the algorithm kind of rolling again. And
yeah, don't take a break. If you take a break, your numbers drop like a stone. You know what I mean?
Oh, have you seen my pad before, Tom? This is my dice, my pool table. I got my, you got to have a craps mat.
Was that the
my
old
front room area?
Was that the old?
I got a bar back here and some other stuff.
Wait, JC, was that the old background that you used for the old show?
Yeah, you're exactly. You recognize it. I used to have that on the wall behind me. Yeah,
I don't know why you keep that up. That was your brand. You should have kept that up.
Maybe I'll start putting it up again. But I've been doing it at my friend's studio. He owes me airtime anyways because I've helped him with some other stuff with his business. So
interesting.
Maybe after I get done with my few comped weeks there, we'll figure out what's up.
That's awesome. And how's the show going?
Good. The dude that I just, had on, I dropped the first part to it, was a major, 420 guy from California from that whole era.
Oh, wow.
And you find out just how small of a world it is because he mentioned a couple of names to me off camera and I mentioned one or two, and they, you find that people involved with way bigger stuff, you start to see that, oh, you knew this guy and he knew this one. And you can see how the feds will put people on indictments who don't necessarily know one another. My bro was telling me about how there was guys on his indictment. Here, he's in a RICO case, mind you, for marijuana out here, right?
Oh, wow.
And he's in an indictment with people he's never heard of, but because they knew the guy above him, they both knew the same distributor, and the distributor got nailed. Yes, they're getting thrown into the same indictment. So
let me ask you. No, Jesse, my
thanks, Jesse. You're so
exactly.
I appreciate it too.
JC's always welcome to come on. He's a good guest. I'm going to be interviewing a guy named John Dickey. He is a author out of UK, and he's like the worldwide expert on all things Italian mafia. And here are some of the books that he wrote. The guy is just literally like one of the smartest guys I ever met, knows the genre, knows the game and that kind of stuff. Let me ask you, what happened to the illegal when marijuana? I remember I was in like San Diego. You could like call the loud line and a guy shows up like a Honda Civic 20 minutes later and drops off edibles, right? So it's obviously illegal. What happened to the illegal kind of market in California after it was legalized, in your opinion, of course?
Well, it's still there because we have a state government that loves to tax products way higher than they should. That's just the nature of politics in this state. And cannabis is no different. It's one of the industries that they overtax. And it's, there's also some other issues too. You have local governments, the politicians, they see cannabis as the next cash cow, the way that they always did with card rooms or gambling. What they used to do when they first started legalizing card rooms all over California and other states, what was their first pitch? We're going to tax the revenue from the card rooms and pay for this new police car and this here and this fire truck, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And they just go crazy with it. So it's still.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit, JC. You froze.
We just don't know what they're doing, so.
Got it. You froze a little bit, but I kind of got the gist of what you're saying. Chris Toro, text me or call me when you get a second before Monday, if you don't mind. I thought of Chris when I found out that I was going to be interviewing what is it called? John Dickey. I thought of Chris Toro immediately. And Chris, just call me or text me because you could probably give me some guidance on what I could ask, and especially on his latest book, The Craft of How the Masons Made the Modern World. Jane Creek, long time no see. So Jane, I'm having John Dickey on. I know you're a person of intellect. If you don't know who he is, you're going to want to know who he is. And I'm just really excited to bring him to kind of a little bit more of a stateside audience. JC, I don't know how your numbers are, but part of the reason why I'm doing it too, about 30% of my audience is either in Canada or overseas. So I have like almost like 8% UK, 6% Australia, 10%, 5% Canada. Like my point being is like I know there's a really good chunk of, and drop a line if you're overseas, but a big chunk are overseas. So I kind of want to cater to that audience as well. Do you see that in your stats as well?
Yeah, for sure. I see people in the UK and Germany and then sometimes in Australia, and then there's so it's about 1/3 or so, 20% to 25%, up to 1/3 on any given month, depending on how often I've been doing shows or doing live streams in particular.
Nice.
And if you play around with the times, you'll see that a lot of the people over there, they make it a point, if they can't catch a live, they'll watch a replay, because they're sort of used to that with American shows in general.
Yeah. Hey Edward, how are you? OC Short says, thank you, Tom, just dipping my toe in the interview game. Still got a lot to learn from the likes of you. I'm honored and privileged the fact that you're even watching me right now. And by the way, great job. If you haven't checked it out, OC Shorts did a voiceover for my man Cold Shoulders, a rapper, Italian rapper out of New York, and he does a little bit of a sample, and he used OC Shorts' voice, which James, you crushed it. James, here's the key to interviewing: get the backstory, build up to kind of like what they're working at, what they're known for. Let them brag about themselves. Crescendo kind of like where they are now. Let them plug their stuff. You follow that arc. You can interview anybody you want, and you can follow that structure. And that's kind of how I do it, to be honest with you. Squally, how are you? You should get Wes Watson on. Who's that?
Wes Watson is a dude that you serve time out here in California. He's real muscle bound. He does like a motivation channel now. And
nice.
I actually know this other guy called That Prison Guard. His channel is growing quickly, and he was a correctional officer out here, and he actually met with Wes Watson about 3 weeks ago, and he's hit me up on IG about going on his channel, which I'm going to do. I'm going to do an interview on there soon.
Nice.
And he said to refer others, but I know he's plugged in. Wes Watson has like 500,000 subs on YouTube. Big channel.
Yeah, I want to start collabing with like some bigger channels, even if they're not serving the mob space, because those collaborations kind of work both ways. I had on my other channel a guy who was like an accountant. He has like 89,000 subs. Like in other spaces, it's much easier to kind of grow your audience. I want to ask you a question, because you're out that way. The Silicon Valley Bank going under. And by the way, I might do an episode on that. That's the new Enron. How bad is it that way? And are you feeling any effects by you, or just give us a California guy point of view? Because it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, you know how that whole area is. So it's like that whole world is so overvalued and overinflated on every flipping level that, right. Well, luckily for me, the way that I'm doing things, I'm not reliant upon that kind of stuff. In fact, the way I'm set up, if the economy was to tank, I'd actually do slightly better. So I'm kind of, I'm doing fine with what I'm doing. But yeah, these guys, that's just that. It's, I guess we have to see what the details are exactly, but it's not really a shocker anymore, because so many of those kinds of markets are just fucking, trashed up. What, did we lose you, Tom?
Give me one second.
Takeover of Tom's show.
Sorry, my little one was running in frame.
Oh, gotcha.
And
yes.
I just had to jump out a second.
But
I want to go ahead, because I want to
ahead.
give a prediction. I was going to do a show just on this, but I want to give a little prediction for those people that are watching and watch on the replay. But go ahead.
Check this out with the numbers and all that. I think that if you get out there, Tom, like you had been in the past, where you do interviews on some of the larger channels, it'll have a major effect. Because I've noticed, like, when I first started, I dropped an interview on a channel that got up to 50,000 views, and it was growing. My even during the time where Hootie and I had stopped dropping new shows, the channel was still growing at a small rate. It wasn't its normal rate, but it was smaller. And I've been told that one reason why A-Light and others are in Franzese network and do these larger interviews themselves still is because it puts their algorithm into another zone with the way YouTube factors them as being an active account, basically.
Well, one of the reasons is so I had this guy on Echoes from Above, and he's like, so, and you'll appreciate this being in this nonsense world that we live in. So I my second space outside the mob space or genre is the finance space, right? In the finance space, you got some really big guys. You got like, Grant Cardone and all these big guys. But then there's a level of guys that call out the finance guys as scammers, right? And one of these guys who got really big is the name of CoffeeZilla.
Oh, I love that guy.
He was pretty big, and don't get me wrong, he got to 1 million subs, which is a lot. I'm not saying, but he kind of called out FTX early.
Yes,
he called out, and he almost got Sam Bankman-Fried to basically admit it was a scam on a Twitter live stream.
Yeah, he was going into a couple Twitter spaces and jumping in right at the end to make it where he sort of had to answer at least something before he could dodge the whole thing. Yeah. Correct.
While the guy's playing like Legions, right?
Right.
He also did a pretty big expose recently on Logan Paul, and that blew up, right?
Yes.
So I was following him, and he went from like 1 million subs to about 2.5. He was on JC. He was on Joe Rogan this week.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. And one thing I respect about him is I actually found him through this dude named Spencer Cornelia, right?
Oh my God. You got to watch my show with Echoes from Above. Echoes from Above called out Spencer Cornelia. He's got about 500,000 subs. Check it out.
Yes.
I'm a huge Spencer fan. Spencer actually went on, what's his name? Echoes from Above. And they literally debated for like about 2.5 hours. Their space, the finance space, Jason, you'll appreciate this, makes MobTube look like puppies.
Oh, for sure.
Doxing, going after people's families.
The frivolous lawsuits, garbage they do. And look, I like it. I like Spencer's reporting when it comes to exposing the gambling frauds in Vegas and all that, calling them out. But but I do mad respect that CoffeeZilla, despite being Spencer's friend, had called him out on 1 or 2 of his own conflicts. And I was like, wow, that, I didn't even know who CoffeeZilla was until after I'd been watching Spencer Cornelia's gambling shit.
I was a Spencer guy, and then CoffeeZilla called him out. And just to give people the background, you guys got rug pulls on crypto, exactly. So you guys got to check out this space. It's insane. The Michael Franzese is a CoffeeZilla right now, especially since he's on Joe Rogan, right? Then you got this guy, Meet Kevin, who's your way, who was a protege of Dave Ramsey. He kind of turned out to be, a lot of people think he's a scam, got a DUI. So then there's these shows that just were calling out Meet Kevin, this guy Scott Schaefer, now has 130,000 subs, basically from just calling people out. And Cornelia's been calling people out for a minute, and off of one show got sued and is now $250,000 in legal fees in the hole. I want to have Spencer on. That's why I had Echoes on, because I wanted to kind of get a little background of the space. And Echoes knows Spencer. I would love to get Spencer on. I would love to get him on.
Yeah, I'm cool with him on like most of his stuff, and his thing with CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla clearly proved that one, but hey, on the other things he does, same thing with CoffeeZilla. They're both pretty good at calling these people out, and
really quick. So Nepal brings a good point, and I actually wanted to do a show on this. I did the research, and I want to talk about Chat GPT in a second. I want to talk about, because I know JC would be interested in hearing about it. So generally, the neo-Nazis and Cosa Nostra, historically, I don't know about now, historically have not played nice. So if you go back all the way to Cesare Mori, the Iron Prefect, Mussolini sent them out to Sicily like in the 30s to pretty much say, you have carte blanche. If you're a made guy, either killed you or threw you in jail. And he was a judge, jury, and executioner. So they pretty much put a big dent in the mob, almost eradicated the mafia. After a while, for political reasons, he got put back, I think, to Torino, wherever he was. And then later, after El Duce, with the help of Lucky Luciano and so forth, got out. The Cosa Nostra kind of had a good run, kind of from like the late 40s all the way to the 80s. I interviewed Salvarina. You wouldn't really talk about that much, but kind of till Torina's era. So I was going to do an episode on, and you'll appreciate this, JC, Fascists versus the mafia. Because
let me add something to this real quick to his question. Actually, a good answer. Keep in mind, Carmine Galante actually shot, I think, a journalist who was a anti-fascist journalist, I believe.
Vito Genovese, I don't know if he used him, probably because he used Carmine. I think that might have did the killing. He did it as a favor for Mussolini. That's how he got in with Mussolini. And he showed up with $1 million for Mussolini's son.
Yeah, and my answer to that question would be a real simple, that the mob will work with anybody that will get the goal accomplished. One of the stories I did out here involves the corruption of the state attorney general of California. They were able to get a guy elected in the 50s that they controlled. And, that's a big thing when you control the attorney general of a large state. Correct. And it allowed them to do a lot of bad stuff for the 4 years he was in office before he got called out by Earl Warren, ironically enough, who became the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court later after being governor of California. But, and look, that guy was a Republican, but look, they bought off the Democrats in San Francisco. They buy off whoever they needed to accomplish a goal. If they needed like an Al Sharpton to work with Mike Franzese to protest a store, you would say that's kind of far left, but they utilized him to accomplish a task of extorting businesses. Correct. They do the same thing with far right too.
I interviewed Al. I had cigars with Al. I kind of kept friendly with him for a little bit. We did talk about some stuff, but he wouldn't talk about Franzese on camera. I did ask him about that, but he wasn't comfortable.
Well, look, Al is a good old fashioned con man at the end of the day himself, and he's quite entertaining actually. So even when I don't even worry about most of his political stuff, because with guys like him, they're all put up there as frontmen anyways. Most of these leaders are selected way before they ever get to the top. But he's entertaining as hell. He's in. Kwame Kilpatrick would be another one who's highly entertaining, that for all the bad stuff he did to Detroit. Have you ever seen any of his podcasts with him where he's interviewed?
I have not. I got to check it out.
He's another one, bro, that he can tell you a lot about how the extortion rackets work with the black community and gangsters. And he was just like that, except more hip hop-ish than Al, and more our generation, kind of Run DMC to, kind of. He had that image of a Suge Knight kind of character going into, really,
Really quick. And I don't know, I've been out of the phrase. I don't know, like, where you guys all stand, but I can say that Lee Cole invited me on his show. We talked about, like, a follow-up from one of my other shows, and I was very happy to have go on Lee's shows. But I want to point out Lee's last show covering the Rizzutos. I really think him and James did a very nice job. I think the Rizzutos do not get covered enough. And I think they are underestimated in the grand scheme of Cosa Nostra history to this day.
Well, that's an interesting point with them, because that whole Canadian scene, ironically enough, has been sort of a thriving situation, considering it, and it's akin to the BC pot situation out here in the 90s. Back in the day when the sentences were real tough still for growing marijuana, the place that it was happening the most was just north of Seattle in Vancouver, British Columbia. And so, the folks that had that, like Mark Emery, I had him on the show a couple of years ago.
Oh, nice.
He was called the Prince of Pot. They were moving in just a ton at a time, literally, and they did all kinds of other stuff too. And when you look at that, Canada's kind of soft on, they had a softer approach to crime, and it sort of helped keep them around longer.
Well, I think a softer approach on crime, less statutes in terms of RICO and stuff. And then also, I think they adopt, and again, my sources tell me over there, if you do inform, they follow the more Italy approach where they go after your family, where US they don't. And I think that also would deter, like an unspoken deterrent. Because listen, at the end of the day, if you roll in the U.S., they generally don't, unless you're Casso, they generally don't go after their family. But in especially Sicilian Cosa Nostra, they do. So, and in Draga does as well. Because a lot of times, if you do roll, you're related. So I'm gonna JC.
They probably interact with the other groups a little bit more too. Canadians are sort of known for being friendlier amongst each other too, and that collaborative kind of relationship they have with bikers and
Yeah.
you know, in the other groups, the Asian groups that are up there now, it probably served them well, you know, so
Absolutely.
because that's a smarter approach than going all crazy like the past. You can't really do that no more. So,
Exactly.
all right. Hey, I appreciate you having me
Thanks
on,
for coming
Tom.
on.
I'll talk to you soon. We'll do a collaboration very soon. Okay.
Looking forward to it, JC. Thanks
All
for
right,
coming
bro.
on. Thank you. All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up. So if you're watching this as a replay, please feel free to submit your questions below for John Dickey. I'm going to be hopefully doing it on Monday. If all goes well, I'll probably go live to tape. So I like to get the bigger interviews up pretty quickly. I don't need the bells and whistles. I just like to kind of get it up. But that's all for now. I just want to thank you guys all for checking out my quick live. I appreciate all the support. I'm actually receiving some donations from PayPal and some other places. It helps the channel grow, helps me do the interviews that you like and expect from me. If you want to put a super thanks below for those on a replay, you're more than welcome. And thank you guys for checking out the Armchair MBA.